Hi, I'm author Sabrina Wagner, and I write sweet, sassy, sexy romance novels about alpha men and the strong women that challenge them. Today I'm going to read you a couple of excerpts. The first is from my book, Shattered Hearts. In this scene, Kyla, who is our heroine, has just been through a very traumatic event, and she has an unexpected visitor. Tyler was standing on my front porch. He couldn't see me like this. It wasn't even an option. He could never know what had happened. I backed away from the door when he knocked again. Kyla, I know you're in there. Your car is in the parking lot. Please open the door. His voice wasn't mad or yelling, just pleading. I slid down against the door and sat on the floor. I'm sorry, he said. I'm sorry I walked away from you. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm not the same man without you. I need you. I want back what we had. I miss you so much it hurts. I know we can make this work. I sat there and cried at the words he said. Why couldn't he have told me all of this months ago? It was quiet for a long time, and I thought maybe he had left. Then he spoke again. Kai, I'm missing my heart. I gave it to you a long time ago. I want you to bring it back to me so it can beat again. I understand why you don't want to talk to me, but I'm not giving up on you. I'm not giving up on us. I love you, Kyla O'Malley. I heard him get up, and then his car started and drove away. I sat there leaning against the back of the door, crying, and I whispered to myself, I love you too, Tyler Jackson. And that was from my book, Shattered Hearts. The second excerpt I'm going to read for you today is from my book, Smoke and Mirrors. In this scene, Draven, who is our hero, learns a secret about Layla. Layla stood and dropped her robe. She stood in front of me in only her lacy underthings. The shape of her body was like a kick to the gut. I sat there feeling unworthy of what she was showing me. These tattoos, she said, are my shame, my penance for trusting someone too much. She turned her back to me. The tattoo that started on her arm and went over her shoulder continued down across her lower back. Big, colorful flowers covered her skin. The work was intricate and detailed. I ran my hand along her tattoos. The raised scars were barely visible through the ink. She pointed to one in the middle of her upper back. This one punctured my lung. Then she turned to the front. She touched the butterfly that sat below her belly button piercing. This one killed my baby. The emotion that sat in my chest swelled to epic proportions. Tears so foreign to me swam in my eyes. I gripped her hips gently, leaning my head against her stomach. I'm so sorry, Layla. I didn't know. She ran her hand through my hair. I didn't want you to know. I just wanted to be a normal girl going out on a normal date. I wanted everything we did tonight. So now you know all of this, she motioned to her body, is a facade. It's the paint I use to cover the ugly. But no matter how much hair dye, eyeliner, and ink I use, it's still there. Underneath it all is still a damaged woman. Layla picked up her robe and slipped back into it. You should go now. She tied the robe and turned her back on me. I have nothing to give you. He took every little piece of my soul. And that was from my book, Smoke and Mirrors. You can visit me on Instagram and Facebook, or you can go to my website to see all of my books at SabrinaWagnerAuthor.com.
Welcome back to the second annual Authors Fair hosted by Rochester Hills Public Library and Rochester Writers. For Rochester Writers, my name is Michael Dwyer, and joining us for this segment is author Sabrina Wagner. Sabrina, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me today.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you here, and we just got done with a recording of you reading two books, a little bit from Shattered Hearts and a little bit from Smoke and Mirrors. You describe yourself as how do you put it? The sexy, sweet,
Sexy, sassy romance writer.
and your characters. You like to say you have a all alpha male as a lead, as well as a strong woman, and that strong woman challenges the man. Is that right?
Absolutely, because I think every alpha male needs a woman to challenge her to kind of put him in his place too.
Well, I think what you're describing is partnerships, romantic partnerships, and I would say that every man needs a woman challenging him, and vice versa.
Absolutely. My books are, if you're looking for a Hearts and Flowers book, these are not the books for you. These books, the characters are flawed. They have deep secrets. They have dark pasts, and the way they work through those things, that's what these stories are about.
And so it sounds like you maybe push the characters to being a very strong, extreme character that many of us can relate to, but because of who they are, it's not necessarily who we are, but we can certainly relate to that and maybe feel that our problems aren't so big.
Well, absolutely, because we all have pasts. We all have secrets. We all have some damaged part of us in the background. And these books kind of bring those things to light because everyone has a story. I get my ideas for writing from movies, books, commercials, songs, people I see at the mall. And my job as a writer is to kind of dig deeper and find their motivations and what shaped their life and how those imperfections in their life shape their relationships. Because we all have them.
Sure. And why romance? Why that genre for you as a writer?
Well, when I was probably in middle school, I started reading a lot and I kind of hooked onto the romance genre. I'm a hopeless romantic, and I think I kind of fell in love with love. Um, there's always, I was always attracted to the characters that were flawed, and I loved seeing their happy ending, or at least they're happy for now until the next book so I could find their happy ending. And so I think I just love love.
Well, that's great. I mean, we should love love. It is such a part of being human. Um, many romance novels have that happily ever after ending. Do your novels have that, or would that be asking you to give it away?
Well, no, every like true romance has a happily ever after. I will say some of my books, like in the Heart series, the first three books really go together, and you're not going to get the happily ever after at the first book. There's always some type of cliffhanger and what's going to happen to them now. But by the time you finish the series, you will get your happily ever after.
Okay. Yeah, readers like to know that they're leading up to something, right?
Absolutely. And it wouldn't be a romance if it didn't end in happily ever after.
Now, with these strong characters that you craft in your writing, uh, from your readership, do you find that there are men and women, and of course we know that with romance it's mostly women readers, but do you find that your readership relate to these characters or have had relationships like this in their lives?
Um, I think that they can because, like I said, the characters are flawed and we're all flawed. Um, the book that I'm writing right now starts with a single mom, and
she's out for the first time forever, trying to do something for herself, and the night kind of ends disastrous for her. And I think that there's a lot of single moms out there that can kind of relate to that. You know, they're trying to find something more, but they're still, their family is the most important thing. Their child is the most important thing in their life. So I think that everyone can kind of relate to these characters on a different level.
And in the second reading you did, Smoke and Mirrors, you spoke about tattoos and how they play a part in the characters and kind of define some of the challenges they've had in life. Is that anything that's happened to you, whether it be tattoos or something else that has imprinted itself, that is a reminder of past love or issues?
Um, well, I got my first tattoo a couple years ago, at the age of 46. And yeah, it was something I kind of always wanted to do. And I'm a little damaged, just like everyone else is. Um, the the second series, the Forever Inked novels, kind of came out of the first series because when people read the first series, the secondary character who was the tattoo artist, everyone was like, "Oh, I love Zach. I really need to know his story. What's going to happen with him?" So that is kind of what formed the second series, which is the Forever Inked novels. And all of the characters in those novels work at a tattoo parlor. And each book focuses on a different character or a different person who works in that tattoo parlor. So yeah.
That sounds like the making of a really good TV series.
That would be awesome. I mean, um, and these characters, they're, as I'm writing them, because all of the books carry the same characters throughout them. Each book introduces new characters, but you still see all those old characters in there. So you kind of feel a familiarity with them. And I think that's what readers like, is that they can kind of attach onto, oh, I know who this person is. I kind of know who what their story is too. And each book kind of gives just another step in that story.
Right, right. So, remind us how many books you have out. And I apologize, I'm looking at another screen here with some information about you. Remind us the book titles.
So there's the Heart series, and that's Hearts on Fire, Shattered Hearts, Reviving My Heart, Wild Hearts, and Secrets of the Heart. And then out of that series became the Forever Ink novels. And that starts with Tattooed Hearts and Tattooed Souls, and then Smoke and Mirrors. And the newest book that I'm doing right now that I'm working on is Regret and Redemption. And I already have the idea for the next one is already brewing in my mind, even though this one's not finished.
Well, I can imagine, and we are looking at. I'm looking at probably most of them behind you, or if not all of
Yeah.
them, are displayed behind you, and they're eye-catching covers. Tell us about the artwork and how you came up with the idea for covers.
My graphic designer actually started as my next door neighbor. She's a graphic design person. And it was really super convenient because I could run over there at night with my drink and we'd sit down at the computer and we'd work on. Um, I would a lot of times print things off from the internet and kind of cut and glue and paste it together on a piece of paper, say, this is kind of what I want. And then between the two of us, she would kind of make my images come to life. Now the Tattooed Hearts and the Tattooed Souls, I just recently changed the covers for them because the first ideas that I had, I loved the concept. And then as I looked at the market and I looked what was really going on in the market, I was like, just don't meet the market. So I kind of had to get over my own ego and my love for those first covers. And we came up with the new covers and I love them even more. So, and she's still my graphic designer. She doesn't live next door anymore, but yeah, she's great to work with.
Well, and I find that with romance novels in particular, the cover says, I'm a romance novel.
Absolutely.
Right. And so that's an important thing to think about when you're designing the covers for your books. And they're all beautiful, muscle bound, barely clothed people.
They are.
that's just the standard for that genre. But I noticed that some of yours is that the tattooed series, I'm sorry, the inked series that has changed a little bit with the more darker cover.
Well, the first series, which is the Heart series, um, every cover had a heart on it, and that was the center of the cover. Whether it was
Okay.
the heart on fire, the shattered heart, um, the burning embers in a heart. So that whole series was all hearts, and I wanted to keep that consistent throughout the series. The next series, which is the Forever Ink novels, are featuring more people. And
Okay.
and that's me growing as an author too, and learning what the market really wants and what romance involves, because this is a second career for me. This isn't really what I started out doing. I started teaching, and so I've learned and developed as I've gone too. So the second series are more people centered, and I think that's really what the market wants.
It's intriguing because we haven't we've done a lot of these interviews over the course of this author fair, and I haven't spoken with many about the cover, and I find that it's an important factor, especially for a self-published author, because a self-published author will have a lot more say in the creation of those covers than, let's say, a traditionally published author.
Absolutely. I have another friend who writes women's fiction. They're not romance novels per se. And she worked with a publishing house, and she got pretty much zero say in what her cover is. So I really like the freedom and the chance to have a big say in what my covers look like.
And in normal times when we're out and about and meeting in person, I'm sure you've done some readings. What kind of response do you get from fans or readers or listeners to your work? Was that something that stands out to you?
Um, the biggest thing is that I think people really hook into the characters. The characters become real to them, and they're invested in knowing how the story is going to end because they're so invested in who the characters are. The Heart series was my first series, and I'll admit the writing was a little shaky, but the story itself, people loved the story and they loved the characters. And as I've grown as an author and moving into the Forever Ink novels, they still love the characters, but the writing has gotten better.
Well, we all improve as writers, that's for sure. And it's a pleasure to speak with you and an author that has so many different titles. Um, let's leave it with a place for listeners to go, maybe a website where they can find out more about the author Sabrina Wagner, and a place maybe to buy your books.
Okay, well, right now, all of my books are available on Kindle Unlimited on Amazon. And you can see all of the books and all of the synopsises on my website at sabrinawagnerauthor.com. And I'm really on social media at Facebook and Instagram.
So we can find you lots of places. I want to thank you again, Sabrina Wagner, for joining us for the 2020 Virtual Author Fair, our second one. And we'll have another author coming up in just a moment.
Thank you for having me.